Roy, you can hear. That's weird. Okay, so now we have. Everybody hears that. Roy, you can hear us because you said before you couldn't hear.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have a quorum. We're going to start. Dave Horvath is going to be joining us late because he's on a work meeting. So as soon as he gets off that, he'll be jumping in. So I'm going to call this regular meeting of the Public Site and Building Commission to order at 7:03. And do we have a flag? Kathy's getting her flag. So if we can stand and join me with the pledge. I pledge allegiance, flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so as I said, Dave Horvath's going to be jumping in a little later. So, but we still have a quorum, so we're going to continue on. And our first agenda item is public input. So do we have anybody? Somebody needs to either mute their. So public, Nick, you want to do? So Nick wants to join us for public input.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for your time. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Nick Ellis, 13 On Road, Bethel, Connecticut, a lifelong resident. I've seen a lot of projects being built in this town. Several people has, made questions about some of the stuff going on in Rockwell and Johnson. I took a ride around several times over the last 6 to 8 months, and I'm a little embarrassed, and I'm not sure who our owner's rep is, if it's your job as a committee, but there's a lot of sloppy work going on. And this, I'm looking from the outside. Dr. Carver, our superintendent, has been nice enough to set up a tour so I can get inside the buildings. I'm in construction and I see stuff from the outside, and at best, some of it's sloppy. So I think as a town of Bethel spending $60 million, that our kids deserve so much better. And I'm talking about simple little stuff. When someone glazes in a window, okay, caulking in, if someone doesn't understand what I'm talking about, when someone caulks in a window, a aluminum storefront window, and they rub their finger on the brick or on another piece of a frame, I mean, that's sloppy. I'm not sure if the construction company has somebody up there full time to try to get this punch list stuff done, but I don't see any movement. This job has been going on forever. I understand that everybody's going to say it's the pandemic, but life has to go on. We have to move on, and Bethel deserves a much better job than this with spending this kind of money. I formally have asked Nancy to see original punch list of this job, because I would love to compare my list, what I see, to whoever, and Nancy, when I'm done, you can answer who's actually did the punch list, our owner's rep, our architect. I'm not sure who's done it, but I would love to see a copy of it. And during our tour, I'm going to have more questions of who's closing out these options. So I'm sorry, these issues with the things. At best, it's been sloppy work. The topsoil, I've watched people hydroseed over, I'm talking about 6-inch rocks. Now, someone that we paid, we have owners reps, we have a construction company. If someone's allowing this to happen, I don't feel that Bethel is getting their money's worth. And that's place. Everybody okay?
So Kathy, could you mute everyone? And then Nick, you'll have to unmute yourself.
That's fine.
So there was a whole lot of background noise coming in. I don't know who it was coming from, unless it was coming from a number of people. So please keep yourselves muted so we can hear the person that's talking. If you've got some kind of stuff going on in the background, whatever. I know we're all working from home and we have families that we just can't tell them to leave the room or leave the building, leave this house. So we know where our families are in the background, but if you could keep yourself muted while you've got all that other stuff going on, that would be appreciated. Sorry, Nick, so keep going.
Thank you, Nancy. Again, just to reiterate, some of the stuff going on that I just see from driving by and walking outside is on the sloppy side. And this is the biggest building project in the town's history. And I know you guys put a lot of time in on this, but I just think we need to do better for our kids. And I'll give you a quick story. Back in the late 70s, early 80s, I walked into what we call the town hall now. And as a young kid, I remember saying, wow, somebody built this building so I can go to school. I was so impressed back then. And it just made an impression. And I want the kids to walk into the Rockwell School in Johnson and have that same impression. They deserve the best. And we paid the taxi ride. We should at least get to where we all want to be. And I know everybody in this meeting wants the same thing, but I just don't think we're getting there. So I'm asking for the punch list, and we're going to have a tour. And I'm looking forward to seeing what's going on. And hopefully someone's going to listen, and we're going to get what these kids deserve today. So again, I'm going to listen to your meeting, and I appreciate the time, everyone.
Your input, Nick. Next, so is there any other public input? I don't see anybody else who is public, so probably not. All right, again, thanks for your input, Nick. Correspondence, nothing that's not part of our usual particular project correspondence. So unless Kathy, you have something that you got at the last minute, which I'm sure you don't, right? So then we have to do approval of meeting minutes. So I'm going to make a motion. Everybody received those ahead of time, plus Kathy also sent them out along with the agenda. So I'm going to make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes from our regular meeting of May 11, 2021. And Dave seconds. Dave Olson seconds. Does anybody have anything? You can unmute if you need to. Anything that they need to put in about the minutes, either updates or corrections? We're good. Okay, so we're going to vote on that. All in favor? Approval of meeting minutes? Aye. Is anybody opposed, or does anybody have to abstain?
Nancy, I
I
have
think
to
you were all
abstain.
here last. John Menti has to abstain,
I was
and
not on the meeting.
yeah, Dino was not on the meeting either, so Dino has to abstain. Okay. We're good with that. So under old business, for Johnson Schools, we have our construction progress update and the schedule update from Ken and Jim. So the progress update, the report was, it's a short report from Ken that was sent out earlier. So Ken, what do you got for us?
So at Rockwell, the landscaper is finishing up, touching up some of the areas that we spoke to him about behind the gymnasium. He recently put topsoil and used a Harley rake and put down some erosion control netting. And he was going around watering the grass today. And, we explained to him the areas of concern with the committee as far as the ravines and all the rocks that were there and the branches. And he's since removed rocks and some of the branches and has attempted to fix some of the areas in question. He hasn't got to all of the areas yet, but he was getting rid of some of the topsoil over at Johnson and moving his equipment so we can get that field together. The chiller sound screen wall panels are shipping. I don't have the exact date that they're gonna be here, but they did say that it's probably gonna be a week. So hopefully early next week, we'll have those sound panels on site and start installing them. And that's,
Hey.
go ahead.
Hey, Ken, can you go back to the landscaping, and that was priority? On that, when we walked the site, what was it, Friday, last week?
Yeah. It was on Friday.
With Dave and John on that, they were compiling a punch list, which was quite extensive on that. Areas that had to be, redone and regraded and topsoiled, et cetera. Has that list been produced yet? And I mean, I want us to be all working on the same list, because I think this is similar to what Nick was talking about earlier on this, that we have on this, new punch list that we put together last week. I don't know if it's been compiled yet, being that, the day that it is. So.
Haven't seen it yet.
Okay, because
So-
I spent quite a bit of time. Myself and Dave and John started around the building one way, and I think the other parts of the committee went around the other way. And I know when we got up through Rockwell, I mean, similar to Johnson, he had a lot of pictures and a lot of notes, and areas that had to be backed up against the curbings, et cetera. I mean, it was quite extensive. So I just don't want priority landscaping to be thinking it's a couple of minor items. It was not that many minor items. It was, I thought it was extensive.
Can I ask a clarifying question, Nance?
Yeah, yep.
So I might be wrong about this, but I don't believe I've ever seen a punch list for the outside. Is this the first time that has been produced?
So Joe Collada, on Friday, Joe Collada and Malone McBroom, and whatever their name is now.
Right.
Yeah.
SLR.
Had a plan to, and did meet to do the punch list for the site. Okay, so since they were the civil engineers and planners for the site, that was their plan to walk around. They wanted to do it as soon as much site work was done as possible.
Right.
We still have the field and some other stuff at Rockwell, or at the field at Johnson, et cetera, to work on. So this was their the start of their punch list. Now, some of the stuff that, like with Rockwell last year, where they did the grading and the seating on the back by the bus loop, that really steep slope, plus the front slope going off towards Whittlesey, et cetera. We've been talking about this since last year. So there wasn't an actual punch list, in my understanding, created by Perkins Eastman, right, Joe?
Not for the site. Malone McBroom.
Not for this.
Right, for the site civil
Right.
stuff. They did a
Right.
walkthrough. I forget the exact date of that. But on Friday did a punch list, and I'll follow up with them tomorrow to see where they are in releasing that.
Yeah.
Right, so they're going to create that, and so it was out there. I was out there too for part of it, just because there were some things at both the softball field and the soccer field that we needed to resolve situations that had come up. And Roy continued on with them while they finished around Johnson and then went up to Rockwell. But also that day earlier, before we met, Ken, you met with Priority Landscaping, correct?
Yes.
Yes, and you had a whole conversation with them and pointed out to them a whole lot of the stuff that we've been talking about for months over at Rockwell.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a surprise to him when he sees the punch list. And we realize it is going to be extensive, and we tried to tell him numerous times that just going around spraying everything and thinking that that's going to be acceptable isn't what's going to be acceptable.
Okay, good, Ken. Because
So
that's
yeah.
the only thing I was concerned about, not that I want to make sure Rizzo is put enough emphasis on this, that they clearly recognize, there's it's a long list.
So
Well, and Rizzo has been working to get them,
Correct.
especially through the winter. I mean, it was a lot of emails back and forth, but getting them on site and actually having a meeting with them happened on Friday, like I said, before Joe and Malone McBroom met to do their site walk. And I'm
So-
assuming that Ken, if they need additional topsoil, that we have a place for them to get it before it gets all dragged away.
1, 2, 3.
Yes.
Okay,
So to be clear, we've gotten punch lists for the interior and exterior of the building, for the
Yes.
tech, but we haven't gotten one for the site, correct?
No,
It's
no.
coming.
yes.
Okay.
Okay, so that Roy was kind of jumping in on the site for both schools, but kind of more specifically for Rockwell, because there were so many issues with that front bank and then the rear one too. And it sounds like, Ken, you've got them out there after your meeting, looking at and now dealing with what they need to, what we've been saying all along that they need to deal with.
Yes.
One question I have though is the situation that's been discussed on that front slope, which I know, Roy, you were standing and looking at it with Joe Malona McBroom, and then further down on the other side of the driveway that goes into the front parking lot, that whole slope also, there was a lot of talk about the problems with it all washing out because of the water coming off of that parking lot. Yet, I think that once the grass is established, it should be good. Did you talk to them about making some kind of either hay bale diversion or something that can help hold that all in place once, so the grass can get established?
I did. He thinks that the tactifier that he used is going to be sufficient.
Okay,
And,
so and there,
hey Nancy, I don't want
Yeah.
to interrupt, but on that, when we talked to Malone, McBroom, Dave and John there, I think they were going to suggest some of these part of the punch list as far as some of these items. Okay, and I'm not trying to
Yeah.
downplay it, but it again, like I was saying, it's pretty extensive with ideas on solving.
And Nancy, can I
All right.
jump in? Nancy, I know,
now, Nick, you can't, okay, you know that, this is our meeting and public meeting, you did your public input and you can't interject right now. I
thank you.
appreciate your input from before. All right, so Roy, yes, we're gonna get that punch list, like, there might be other things too that people are thinking about that we've brought up in the past that'll also be on that punch list. Some of the stuff's been remedied as we've gotten into spring, but there's still, I think, what, like Roy said, an extensive punch list, and we'll be getting that soon for the exterior, right?
Yeah, and this is the first layer that we've gotten to, from Malone, McBroom, or David,
Right.
John. So
Right.
I think we got to let them put together the list the way they normally would do this.
Right. So I just have another question on Rockwell, Ken, with the roof. Is that, where are we standing with that?
So the lightning protection company came out Friday. They did what they had to do so that the roofer can come back and finalize the roof for the final warranty. So right now, I don't have a date this week, but he told me he was coming out this week. So I'll find out what day he'll be out.
Okay, and that's pretty much like there was some some outstanding things on the roof before they could certify it, right? And this is pretty much it?
Yeah, they had a couple hours of their punch list work to do. And this lightning protection was important for them to have that finished so they could come back and finish their items.
Okay. Does anybody have any other questions for Ken on Rockwell?
Well, just, yeah, so it relates to Johnson though, Nance. So the repaving of the bus loop will happen by June 7th. Is that what I understood?
It's gonna happen the week of June 7th through the 11th. And I talked to the site contractor, explained to him what your concerns are so that we can, make sure that it's scheduled so that we don't have any problems with the kids in the fumes.
So what does that mean, Ken? So are you scheduling it later in the day? Are you like, because you have to understand about three to 400 cars will drive over it. I don't know tar. I don't know pavement. I'm just curious. So there's no impact?
He says no. I mean, they roll it, and he said it would be fine, and if you could go on it right after he's done rolling it.
So Ken, or Dr. Carver, when's the last day of school?
Well, it's not till the 22nd. And
okay.
and we have a really, as I said in my, Terry actually sent the email. We have a really tight window because we start field day and we start a lot of other things. We're trying to make school as normal as possible, trying to get kids involved in. So we have a lot of end of the year activities that involve families. So when we say that we only have a couple of days and that this kind of bleeds into Johnson, they're going to pave the access road, I believe the rest of the access road also, correct, Ken?
That's correct. Yeah.
So I would focus on that first if you have to start somewhere, because whatever date, Terry, what day, I don't remember exactly what date it is, but we need it done by that date.
Yeah, the other thing with the access road is you have to get those sleeves down and square away what we talked about when we all met at the site the other day. So want to make sure that happens before we pave over.
So when are the field day things? The field day things are happening after the 11th?
They're happening, I think, the 10th or 11th, or
Okay.
Terry sent the dates.
Okay.
And just as related to that access road, I don't know if there's an answer to this, and maybe I need to talk to Tom Galliford, but the access road was only intended for emergency vehicles. And just like at the middle school, parents think it's a parking lot. So they drive around, they park in there. And the only way to really prevent it is to shut the gates. Tom Galliford told me that there is they call it a breakaway lock, where you can, if you had to drive an ambulance or a fire truck through it, that you could put that on and it would prevent like your average car from going through. But it would, I don't know if that's a possibility or something that can be looked into.
Well, yeah, I think we can look into it, and not something that we're gonna be able to solve tonight. I think it's something that we need to, yeah, I think it's something that we need to look into and figure out. Like, I know it's been closed on a regular basis at the end of the day, it gets closed, but are you saying that people are opening it and driving through it?
Yes.
Okay.
They're frequently parking back there, and we're going to put up signs and notices. The other thing, just so you know, that we're noticing is skateboarders back there. It is probably an excellent place to skateboard, but it is causing some damage. So we do have video surveillance, so we're going to put up signs about that too.
Okay. All right, so the paving is, as Ken said, being done June 7 through 11. So is that something you're saying fits into the window of
it does,
field days
as long as
that?
it happens? Okay. I'm just worried that it's not going to happen.
Because that entire following week, there are a lot of end of year school events.
Right.
Okay. So Ken, you got that?
Yes.
We have fifth grade moving up ceremony. We have tons of stuff.
Okay. All right. All right. So we'll keep on that and make sure the paving happens June 7 to 11, and we'll make sure that the stuff that has to go under the access road is either found in place or done before the paving, because we've got to tamp that back down, et cetera. But that's Johnson, so we'll get to that in a minute. Does anybody else have any questions for Ken at Rockwell? All right, so Ken, you got Johnson now, which I see has some stuff the same as Rockwell.
Yeah, the chiller sound screen wall panels will be coming on the same truck. So we'll coordinate that delivery with school bus drop-offs. Stockerfield, he's able now to go in there and finish it. So he got started yesterday, and he's moving along with it pretty well, and it's starting to shape up. Getting rid of all the fill piles and grading it off.
So are they at the soccer field? Are they at a point now where they've taken out all that stuff, or you're saying they're still continuing to take out what they need to take out?
They were still taking out, they ran a truck today, taking out some materials, but they're down to a real small amount left. So, yeah, they're pretty much done.
So they've taken out all the pile of concrete and the tree stuff and that kind of
Yeah,
stuff?
that was being removed today.
Okay, and does your landscaper need any stuff, or is he good with?
I've talked to him about it. So, yeah, I reach out to him tomorrow because there's still material there. So, yeah, I'll talk to him about it again.
Because were they the ones that had the little gator thing that was driving around Friday, or was that?
Yeah, that's done.
So they have a way to move stuff if they need to. They don't need a huge dump truck to do it.
No, they
Okay.
have equipment.
Okay. And then the Johnson, I think at the last meeting, you said it was almost done, but there was one thing that somebody, was it either Tom Galliford or Chris Baldwin, had pointed out that needed to get checked?
Oh, are you talking from their list? From the Chris one?
Right, because it was, Chris Baldwin had a couple of items that he wanted you to make sure got checked or taken care of or switched or changed.
Yes, and we are doing that. We're working on his items.
Okay. So, and then for both schools, we've asked before, as you move along with, so you do have a punch list for the interior and the exterior. You're moving along with those also, and all that stuff's getting, I mean, I know there's bigger things like the graphic in the admin area that you've got to have redone, et cetera, but then there's other small things that are continuing to need to be done. And you're working on those, correct, Ken?
We're looking pretty good on the punch list for both schools, for the interiors, and we'll send over the update tomorrow morning.
Okay. So does anybody have any questions for Ken or Jim on Johnson?
No, they were kind of covered, the stuff that we had on the outside was kind of covered with the Rockwell stuff.
Yep. Okay, so in the schedule, so you had given us a schedule for completing, and it was mostly just a schedule for completing the site work. And while the site work's been ongoing, you've just said now that you're working on punch list items. So do we have some sort of a date or schedule for completion of all these?
I can provide that. There were a couple of dates that I was waiting for, mainly the chiller sound screen, and most of the other items I now have dates for a few of the people that we were waiting on, so I can provide those dates.
Because I know there were a couple other things that, like at the OAC meeting, you mentioned like different, like that was a basketball backboard, exterior backboard that had to be installed. You were waiting for delivery on that. That was backed up, and a couple other things that were backed up. But then there's other things that are not. There are other things that we're not waiting for delivery on. There are other things that just need to be done, and those items you're saying are ongoing with whichever sub needs to do them.
Yeah, I mean, I have dates on the basketball pole and backboard for Rockwell. That's mid-June, and I also have dates for the benches are coming as well, early June.
Okay.
And I think we have everybody that is coming in to do work completed. We have a few punch list items that I'll show you on that schedule. But for the most part, we don't have any major work going on inside.
Okay. Because what we do need to have some sort of an end date. We just can't keep going on and on and on. So an end date, which is going to help not just the town but all the other subs and the other contractors that we have working for us, owners rep, et cetera. Perkins Eastman, we need some sort of an idea from you, or otherwise,
Right.
how can we plan?
There was like the one thing was the existing water service at Rockwell has to be capped, and we tried to do it April break, but the town was busy flushing, so they couldn't do it. So we didn't think there was a good time to shut water off because there were no off days for the school. So we now know that we can do that on the 23rd. So we're scheduling accordingly. So we can, and it's not going to be a long shutdown. He told me that it's probably only going to be an hour, but before I was given worst case 4 hours. So I didn't want to do that while school was in session.
Great. Okay. But along with the updated punch list, we want an updated schedule for not just the site work, but for the entire project.
Correct.
Please.
Yep.
Okay.
So
Dave Olson?
Yes, Ken, this schedule report, which has sort of 3 items on it, I believe is woefully incomplete.
right.
And you've spoken for the last 10 or 15 minutes or so on all the other things that need to be done. Why aren't those on your schedule report?
Some of the information I just got recently, but I can put the other items on there.
Yeah, I would hope that at the next time we get a schedule report, it really is a schedule report. And it has what needs to be done between now and then, where then is the end, in order to complete this project.
All right, I'll have it.
I think the report is.
I mean, you'll have it when, I guess is the question.
For the next
So-
meeting.
In
So
2
Dave is-
weeks?
No,
Well,
so
that's-
Dave is
let's talk
asking,
about the schedule report.
Dave is asking for a more complete schedule report when Ken reports during meetings. What I'm saying, and I think what we're all looking for, is when you give us the updated punch list, because you have a punch list that's been ongoing since it was created back in January, December, which we don't discuss at our meetings on a regular basis because it's much too long. We'd be here having a meeting till midnight.
Right.
But we do get updates as far as how the punch list is going. And Ken, you have probably Matt on job site, et cetera, who's been updating the punch list on a regular basis, and it goes back and forth between you, the owner's rep, architect, et cetera. So we're looking for see, we are now asking to see the punch list as it is updated to date. We also want a schedule as to when everything's going to be done. And we want that before the next meeting. We want that before the next meeting. We want to see it before the next meeting. And at the next meeting, when you give us a report, we want to have all the items on it that are being worked on.
Okay.
Yeah, we
So
shouldn't
Nan-
have to search.
So
We shouldn't
Nancy,
have
what,
to.
what-
Jim, go
what-
ahead.
yeah, what we'll do, Nancy, is tomorrow you'll have the punch list update with dates on next to each item of when we expect the item to be completed. There may be some items where a contractor or a subcontractor feels it's beyond the contract work. Those items may have to be discussed or reviewed, but anything else that's an open item, which there are not many, and it's not just one punch list from Perkins, it's building committee punch list. It's the punch list from Tom and Chris. We have a punch list from the principal over at Rockwell. So we'll give you the update of each of those and then let you know what, if any of those items are going to take longer than 2 weeks for us to knock out, we'll let you know that.
Okay.
And Jim, when will we get the updated schedule that shows the date of completion?
I can take a
Well,
look at that in the morning, Dr. Carver, and I'll let you know. Let me see what the last update that we sent. I believe we were down to the update on the site side where punch list didn't really have an item or an activity on the, an item to update on the actual schedule itself, but I can take a look at that. I don't want to shoot from the hip and tell you.
All right, the one that Geraldine, I thought distributed tonight says everything's going to be done by June 4th. If I'm reading it right.
The site work schedule,
That is the
that's
last,
just the site.
right, that is the last update though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and the only thing
schedule-
that's, right, the
ahead.
thing that's pushing out there is basically the paving. It's pushing into the next week.
So this is site work, the schedule that Geraldine just put up,
Right.
not all the other stuff that we're waiting for delivery on, like the chiller screen or things like the items on the punch list. Those are separate from this schedule that Geraldine just put up.
Correct.
So
So
you look like you have another question.
well, I just want to know. So if the paving gets done the week of the 11th, by the 11th, let's say, will the soccer field be all graded and seeded and like pretty much you just have to be watered and you're walking away?
Right. So what should be happening at the soccer field between this week and next week will be the fine grade, and then the fence, there's a chain link fence that runs around it,
Right.
and then they'll hydroseed. And then that will allow them, that should push them into that week of the 7th, which is why the paving got pushed to that week. So that's the idea, is they're working their way out of there. So the
Okay.
paving is the last thing they're doing.
And you're going to give us an updated schedule in terms of all the other areas that we discussed on the phone the other day, in
Yes.
terms of when all that's going to be fixed?
Yep.
Okay.
Right. So what Jim is saying is, in giving us the most updated punch list, the one that they've been working off of for months, the items listed on the punch list will have dates of completion on them, or dates when something's expected to be delivered, et cetera, like the wall graphic in the admin area there at Johnson, which needs to be replaced. I know at the OAC meeting, Joe was still waiting on a delivery, well, not just a delivery time, but actually when they were going to finish remaking it and shipping it. So items like that, hopefully we'll have a date on it too. Correct, Jim or Ken?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So, Dr. Carver, do you have another question or no? Okay. Anybody else have any other questions for Ken or Jim? And Dave Horvath is here now. And Rich, did you have a question? Yeah, you've got to unmute yourself.
The dog's here whining, so I muted.
Okay.
So it doesn't look like anything is going to be 100% completed by July 1st. Can I assume that?
I think there might be still a couple of outstanding items, but Ken or Jim, can you confirm?
Well, what I'm getting at, why don't we just put off the paving until after school's out so there's no big conflict with what's going on there at school? Pave the 23rd after school gets out.
So when does summer school start, or summer programs, or?
Starts the next Monday. So I don't think there's a good time. Because the Park and Rec, and they use the basketball courts, and they use, because they're running all their summer camps out of Johnson. They start that following Monday.
Yeah, but you won't have 400 cars going down there every day for that. It's just a thought. That's all I was
Yeah.
throwing out to you.
Or is that the backup, Rich, to not getting it, because I know rain sometimes delays paving, right? So if there's issues, could it be moved to that date if they can't do it that first week? I'm as an option.
So if school's out the 22nd, And you say that Park Rec starts the following week, that's the 28th?
Yes, that
They
Monday.
start the Monday, the 28th. They don't wait till July.
Nope.
Okay,
All right, but that would give you 3 days, the 23rd, 24th, and 25th, if they could pave those days. And I'm gonna be quiet after that. Thank you.
okay.
Well, except that if it rains on the 22nd, graduation will be the 23rd.
That's another problem. I didn't even think of, Terry. Thank you. And then the 21st is the 8th grade moving up ceremony.
So there's no good time.
You still might be better staying to your original schedule. I don't think it's, you know, the pavement can get done fairly quickly, I believe. I don't think there's all that much there.
No.
They move along pretty fast too. So, and I somewhat agree with Ken, you know, I mean, you know, many streets are paved with full traffic all the time. So, you know, prefer to have no traffic, but, you know, it's done all the time.
Okay, so.
We're
let's
keeping the
not
original date.
Let's not micromanage everything,
I
okay?
think you gotta just let the guys run with what they're going with. I think they're best.
Yeah,
And I told Ken and Jim,
Yeah.
after hours, there's no problem. You know, I mean, we can make that work. I know that they're reliant on getting the paving and everything else,
Yeah,
but
but the asphalt plants are only open certain hours too.
I
so,
know. That's what was explained.
yeah. I mean, they do stay open later sometimes during the season, but still not, they're not gonna be open at 8 o'clock at night, so. Okay, I think we have, so again, those are the last questions for Ken or Jim. I mean, at least for the construction update in the schedule. We're looking for something tomorrow, and I think we have a technology update next. Geraldine, where are we on with that?
Yeah, we're 99% complete. All of the exterior wireless access points, the interior wireless access points at Rockwell were all completed. The company E+ is coming tomorrow to do their final wireless survey, so then we'll have a confirmation of coverage in case anything needs to be adjusted. We're down to 2 classroom monitors that are still at issue. One, and they're both at Johnson, one's installed, but there was never any place to plug it in, no power, so we're working on getting it powered. And the other board we're still trying to track down. It's a second board in a music room, so not impacting instruction, but we still have to get ESC to find it. All the security work is complete, and so we're good with technology.
Okay. Any questions for anybody, from anybody about technology for Geraldine with that update?
No, I would just want to agree. It's in really good shape. We also just need to put on our radar that we have to get ESC back to do the training at Rockwell on the audio visual system, because when Chris Jocks told Trish not to come to Johnson because it was a little bit of different system. So we have to schedule them to come out to do that training at Rockwell.
Okay, I'll get on that. And I should also add that D'Agostino does owe us one more site visit and report, and we're going to try and schedule that since we're so close. They wanted to be sure that everything was completed before they came to punch list finally. But I think we're going to schedule that at this point too. So I'll touch base on the training and on the punch list visit.
Okay. So next down on the agenda, Rockwell Boiler Room. John Menti, do we have an update on that?
No, Nancy, not from the last update I gave you. Malcolm Beal has not reached out to me with any update. He's just waiting for the final approval of the plan from the authorities. And once we get that information, we'll pass it on and continue.
Did the additional testing that needed to be done happen yet, or is that still being scheduled?
That's
Okay.
part of the plan that they're waiting. He's waiting to get the go ahead on.
Okay, so he's got to get a go ahead on that first before we do the next step. Got it. Okay.
So that, yeah, that's really nothing else at this point in time. I was hoping that I was gonna hear something from yesterday or today, but nothing at all.
Okay. Any questions for John on that? Okay. The federal tax credits. We still are mulling this over. Carolyn, I think your kind of review of that was very thorough. And I do have a little time just in case anyone else jumps in and wants to get those, but I think that we're not seeing as ESC and Ferguson, which we agree should be ESC, but definitely not Ferguson, since they didn't do any of the actual planning. And it's our understanding that as installers, they implemented it, but they didn't plan. That if anyone else was going to do it, they probably already have jumped in by now to file the paperwork. Is that true?
That would be my expectation. We're that close to the end that if anybody had it in mind, they would have asked already. So I assume that this is it.
Okay. So we'll have to come up with something soon of what percentage of that we're going to be comfortable with going with ESC on that. Budget review.
Budget review.
So Geraldine, your sound to me is very staticky, and I don't know if it's coming out that way for everyone.
Yes.
Or
Yes. Same.
oh, it is. Okay. Is that?
I got a new laptop and I apologize. I don't know if it's a problem with the equipment or some interface. I'm working on it. I assumed it was good because I had a call earlier today and no one complained, but maybe they're getting used to it. I don't know. So I'll do the best I can.
Well, we can hear you. It just kind of is staticky in between. It's like it's not cutting out.
So budget reviews. Oh, looks like I uploaded the wrong budget. So I don't have percentages for us, but tonight I don't have the percentage analysis. But just look at some raw numbers on Johnson. We have invoiced and presumably paid out about 36 million of the $39.8 million project budget. Do the math. Last time we were probably at about 93% on that. Similarly, construction has been invoiced about 31 million out of the 33 million. And on Johnson, the owner's contingency still is at $1.445 million. Rockwell, similar situation. At Rockwell, we have on the total project invoice about 25 million of the $27.5 million budget, and requisition 21.7 out of the 23.2 on construction, and the owner's contingency on Rockwell continues to be a negative, and it is now at $517,169. And the easier way to look at this, of course, is on this combined status of contingencies. Tonight, we're going to recommend on the PCOs, $19,000 worth of PCOs at Rockwell and another 47 at Johnson, which brings us pretty close to the end of what we know of for proposed change orders. At this point, it was close to the end. Again, we're carrying some additional professional services requests as well as some additional project scope. These small numbers for United Alarm, Auto Plumbing, and Losito, I actually have invoices to review tonight, so those will roll up into the project budget. But currently, we are looking at, as I said, in contingencies. Excuse me, as of 2 weeks ago, when the last expenditures were approved, a net of 927, almost 0.8. Well, 927,000, about $800 in remaining contingency left. When we factor in all of the potential liabilities, we are still a little over 400,000 under budget. And that's about where we are.
Okay, thanks. Any questions for Carolyn on this? We received it ahead of time and it's on the shared drive if anyone needs to access it. Thanks for keeping this updated.
I have one quick question. Geraldine, you
Yeah.
mentioned, hopefully we're at the end of our change order request.
Yes, at last Thursday's owners meeting with Rizzo, we asked them to identify if they see anything else on the horizon that has not been submitted. We think that that's a no. At this point, we have all of the PCOs that we'll review tonight bring us pretty much up to date with everything that's been submitted. If you review the potential change order log, you will see that the only thing that we have sort of below the line here, there's one remaining, at Johnson, one remaining PCO that has not been acted on, that have been pushed back to the construction manager for more information for some revision. I expect at this point that this is not going to go anywhere. It's been so long since we've requested additional information. And at Rockwell, there's actually the only thing that we're still showing below the line as a change order is rejected, and it's been rejected anyways in concept because the owner believes that the contractor and the subcontractor owed this work from the beginning. I know it's being disputed by Ferguson, and we'll continue to deal with that. But other than that, all the change orders that have been presented to the owner have either been acted on, rejected, or we'll deal with tonight. And since we are so close to the end of the project, I don't see really the possibility of any major change orders still to come.
Beautiful,
Hey.
thank you.
Hey, Geraldine, I had a further question on that. I just want to, I'm concerned later on when we get to talking about the retainage on the jobs. There was some change orders that we had from Ferguson and some other stuff. I just wanted to make sure that all of those have been either approved. I'm concerned of any items that the contractor feels is beyond their contract work. And I know Ken had talked about it a little bit before. I just want to make sure that we're all in sync, Rizzo, ourselves, and the committee, as far as, what the final possible disputed items are.
So Ken and/or Jim can speak to that better than I can. There are some. I do understand that there are some subcontractor change orders still under discussion in the Rizzo court. They have not been presented to the owner yet. I also know that there are some delay claims that are still active from some of the subcontractors with Rizzo. Again, nothing that has been presented with definitive dollar amounts for us to act on.
Yeah, no problems. I was wondering, hey, Jim, maybe you could also, when you're looking at the schedule, you could also kind of group those together, whichever ones you have. And Geraldine, you take a look at any of the items that's on your list.
Sure.
I'd like to see if we can get to a finalized one. So as we're looking at the revised, as the budgeting, we know everything.
Sure, and we did get some correspondence from Ferguson, trying to reserve their right type thing. So we're going through that now. A lot of it had already been rejected, but it doesn't mean it's going to go away. So
yeah, that's just it. Yeah.
It's a potential exposure. So
yeah, I appreciate you just kind of updating that whole list. So we're kind of looking at the totals now.
Sure.
Great.
Yeah, and there's like the thing that came in from QSR, which I think they then backed off on, but is that still something we have to look at? So all those different possibilities of like you said, just because they have backed off or they've given enough information, it doesn't mean they've gone away with it. So
yeah, and that's just that's why I kind of want to just put that footnote in now, so that you're thinking about it even when we start talking about the retainage later on in the further discussion. Okay.
Great. So that's actually in as far as this budget part on our bullets, which are not specific agenda items, but kind of reminders for us.
Yeah.
Is there a point that's better, Geraldine, to talk about the retainage stuff?
Well, I think it would be here under budget review or potentially when we talk about invoice review. We don't have a RISO invoice tonight, but this is the retainage reduction request is in preparation for the next requisition. So maybe we deal with it the first item under invoice review.
Okay. Sounds good. Does anybody have any other questions or comments on the budget and or on the cash flow analysis that Geraldine puts together? Okay, so we're on to change orders. Woohoo.
Change orders. So the first two at Johnson were the two that were tabled by the PSBC last week that have to do with the plumbing chases, the relocation of plumbing in the classrooms at Johnson. So if you recall, we had a change order request for the additional, for the chases, for the framing and the drywall to enclose, so the plumbing that was located in the corner of each classroom. And then we had another change order request from Legier for the modification of the millwork that was impacted by the plumbing being relocated. I don't have any additional information, nor was it requested. I don't know whether you want to, again, discuss these change orders and move on to other ones.
So these are the enclosures that had to be put around each of the plumbing as they got moved off to the corner.
Correct.
There's the drawing. Yep.
Yep. There's the drawing. You know, those are all the chases. Those are all the plumbing locations and all the chases that were built. We discussed the fact that, as you can see where the sink is here in this drawing, the plumbing was originally designed to be closer to the sinks, and in fact, it was located in the corner of each one of these classrooms.
Okay. Anything on this? Anybody?
I think we're just gonna have to move it forward.
I don't understand how these were forgotten about. I just can't conceive that.
So they weren't forgotten about. Okay, the plumbing was
They weren't forgotten
originally.
about, why weren't they in the original cost?
So they were in the original cost. They were shown, if you go back to the drawing, Geraldine. They were shown as not in the corners, but the sinks were shown more in the, I don't know if you have that other drawing that shows them in the center of the room, or where the plumbing was supposed to be. Or is that the Rockwell run?
Yeah, for instance, the classrooms were typically set up with the sink about where you see it in this classroom, you know.
Carolyn, that's only in the end classrooms. So the sinks were scheduled to be in the corner. The plumbing was shown behind the sink instead of adjacent to it. And we should have accounted for an additional chase and not reusing the existing chase. That's why the sinks were located in the corner. So we didn't account for a furred out chase for the new plumbing, which is what this change order is for.
So it's not moving the plumbing specifically.
Right, the plumbing was owned, it's just where it went. And then it needed to be covered because we didn't want to expose plumbing piping in the classrooms.
Right, this is not a change order for the plumbing. We were not presented with a change order to change the location of the plumbing because essentially the materials and labor were the same. What happened is that instead of them being in the existing concrete block walls, they were run outside of the walls and then needed to be enclosed.
And as we discussed at the last meeting, that them being run in the concrete walls was not so any other questions on this? To continue discussion, I'll make a motion that we approve change order number 117 for Johnson School for the plumbing chases added.
I'll second that.
Okay, so let's continue discussion now that we're kind of got our motion on the floor. So any other questions or comments on this? We did find out last week that also, I think there was a back and forth about keeping the costs down, which we were told it was kept as low as possible. Any other questions? Okay, so let's take a vote then. All in favor?
Aye.
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 And anybody opposed? So the motion carries. So this change order, what's the number on the change order, Carolyn, before it goes too far? Yeah, 123.
123.
So this goes along with this
Yes.
plumbing. So since the plumbing chases had to be reconfigured, the millwork had to be modified because all of the cabinets and millwork in those rooms had already been either ordered or delivered. So those had to be reconfigured.
Make a motion to approve that.
So Roy makes a motion to approve change order number 123. Olson seconded it. So any other questions or comments on this one? This is also for Johnson School. Okay, so if we don't have any more questions or comments, let's take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Okay, so we're good with that. What else do we have here?
Final one at Johnson is for an added railing at the amphitheater. This is change order 129, and so help me out with this, Joe. This is the amphitheater area outside of the gym platform, which is here. This is the door, the big glass wall that opens. This is the exterior platform. This area is above grade. There is a driveway, right? There's a
walkway.
A walkway that ramps down towards the playground here. And then there's a wall.
Yeah, the walls where the rail, yeah.
Where the railing is across here and here. And Joe, maybe you can walk us through what the fire marshals and the building.
Yeah, actually it was the
opinion of
building
this was.
inspector. So
Yeah, okay.
Chris Baldwin's concern was, so the code, the way the code reads is if you have a walking surface that's more than 30 inches above another surface, you need to provide a guardrail. The amphitheater itself, I'm pointing my cursor, but I don't have control, is less than 30 inches. But
This surface.
Yeah,
correct.
yep.
So
Yes.
the seat wall extends 18 inches above that surface. So at the corner, I believe it works out to be 32 inches to the top of the wall above the grade. And his concern was, since this is a elementary school, that the kids will walk on the top of the wall, and that because it's more than a 32 inches drop, he wanted a guardrail.
Right.
We agreed with him that in an abundance of caution and safety for the children, that rail should be provided to make a full guard, even though technically the walking surface is not more than 30 inches. But since we all know kids will walk on whatever surface they choose, we want to make sure that they were safe in this condition.
So was this like a code miss or something? Or was it like they didn't put enough dirt in that area to make it 30 inches?
I would say it's the building inspector's interpretation that the top of the wall is a walking surface, even though it's not intended to be a walking surface. So I would not classify this as a code miss, but I classified it as an AHJ request, and we would like to meet that request.
This area where we're adding the guardrail already is a wall. I mean, it already is elevated. So
Right.
it's really about the classification of the surface here will be walking surface. The surface on the top of the wall is not a walking surface. However, it's, you know, third, fourth, and fifth graders. So I think that's where Chris Baldwin, you know, sort of deferred down to, well, we should have the same sort of a guardrail here we would have on a walking, on an actual walking surface.
Right, so adjacent to, on the right-hand side where the wall curves.
Right, that's got a railing.
Right, because the
Yeah.
walking surface there was more than 30 inches, so we provided a guard there to protect.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
But the
So
sheet
Dave, that,
wall pushed it up
right.
at this other side, so.
So Dave, that wall along that Geraldine was kind of running her behind the amphitheater, so at the back of the amphitheater is raised, and so that was considered initially to be the railing, so to speak, the thing that would stop people from
Right.
walking off the edge. But like the building inspector said, kids being kids, they're going to get up on that and walk around on it. So this is a thing to stop that from happening. And it's kind of, in a way, interpretation. I understand that. At the same time, you got to always kind of imagine that kids are going to go where they're going to go. And they're going
To Christine's point, it'll stop skateboarders from trying to do rails.
That's for sure.
True.
I'll make a
They'll still
motion
use
that
the
we approve
stairs.
that.
So Roy made a motion that we approve change order number 129
Second.
for Johnson. Dave Olson seconds. So any more discussion? We're kind of going backwards, but any more? And I think this has already been installed. Yes.
No.
No, it's still being fabricated.
I don't even think it's gone into fabrication until we approve this change order, probably based on the amount of it. You know, it's a
And
costly ad.
right, and based on its QSR. So yeah.
Right.
Okay. So any other discussion or questions on it?
Nope.
All in favor?
Uh,
Aye. Opposed? So that motion carries.
Rockwell, I know I circulated 4 PCOs, but I'm going to withdraw 1. But we will start with number 70. This is similar to a change order that we considered last week. This is another auxiliary rerouting for an auxiliary drain. This one's on the first floor where we could not run. Let me see if there's a sketch here. I'm pretty sure there is. Oh, hard to see. So in the above the PE office.
Oh, right. Yep.
Yeah, above the PE office at Rockwell, there was the need to extend, storm drain piping to an auxiliary drain routed differently than it was shown on the drawings. This one, I think, was because of structural, inability to get the original route because of structural interference. I think also probably like the last one, this is not caught until coordination drawings were completed. We did send this back for revision and got a slight credit for the piping not included from the original route. So this work is done, and I would recommend approval of this change order.
Motion to approve.
So we
Second.
got a motion to approve proposed change order number 70 from Dave Olson, a second from Roy. Any other questions or discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Just giving you a few seconds if you're opposed so you can jump on and say so. All right, so that passes, and we got one more, right? Or is that it?
Two more. So 126, this was some door hardware that was incorrectly specified, needed to be swapped out. I'm not clear about the, or maybe this wasn't incorrect. Was this when we needed to add the, this isn't where the door closure is. Joe, do you have a better explanation of this change in door hardware?
I don't,
So this is
my
the door
understanding
that-
is that there was an RFI response that the door hardware specified was too large or too small for the
So this
actual
is a-
door.
Yeah, it's a two-panel door with uneven leaves, and I think the smaller door, it had to do with the dimension of the door. The hardware that was specified would not work on the door that was specified.
Okay, what's the number on the change order?
It is 126.
126.
And it is just a swap out of the door hardware and then reinstallation, removal or reinstallation of the hardware. So.
Okay, so Dave makes a motion to approve change order number 126 for Rockwell. I'll second it. Any other discussion or question on it? All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed?
Finally, we have what is relatively small change order from Ferguson. There were a number of electrical items picked up at sort of at the last minute in Bulletin 14. It includes some new additional bathroom light fixtures in the restrooms near the gym. This was something requested by the director of the health department because in her readings, the light level was too low in those restrooms. It also includes the relocation of an exit sign on the second floor that was originally installed against sort of over a door against the wall and really needed to be pulled into the common lobby area. And also the fire marshal requested that we provide electromagnetic door hold opens on the door that accesses the two kindergarten classrooms at the very end of the corridor. Apparently the staff always props that door open, and if they put a wedge under the door propped open, it can't properly operate as fire separation. So the fire marshal suggested, and the school concurred with that they were going to continue to prop open that door. The fire marshal said if that was the case, we needed to put that on a hold open so that it in fact releases upon fire alarm. And so the work includes those three scopes.
Okay. So I'll make a motion that we approve change order number 127 for Rockwell School. In the amount of $7,339.49. I need a second.
Second.
Is that Roy?
Yep.
Yeah, second from Roy. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Reluctantly.
Yeah.
Well, I
Only
know it's one of
because
those.
of who the requester is. It's not-
But these are good. These are not
Well-
bad numbers. So.
Well, they're not bad numbers, and it also wasn't really Ferguson. It was, the school was going to keep propping the thing open, and it had to be done so that it would close in a safe way. I mean, all the fire doors in the municipal center are held open that way, so you can walk down the hall and you don't have to walk through push open 18 doors. They're on a magnetic thing that as soon as the fire alarm goes off or somebody pushes a button, they all close. So, I mean, yes, it's Ferguson, but at the same time, it was requested by we, the owners, so to speak.
There you
Well,
go.
did we vote all in favor?
Okay.
Aye.
Hey,
Anybody opposed? Done.
Now, this may be the time to talk about this this additional landscaping request as well. I'm not sure.
So, yeah, let's bring that up to just kind of look at it. So there were two things that we were discussing about the landscaping at Johnson. So to the far, John Menti kept bringing up to the far right-hand side, how all that scrubby brush was kind of all overgrown. It looked really bad, etc. The school had Fairfield County Landscaping come in and cut down that area, which is kind of forward of, actually, yeah, area 3 and area
Yeah.
4. So it's the stormwater retention area is down at the bottom of the slope. You see area 3 and area 4, and then that's more stormwater retention to the back. But that whole brushy area was cut down, and then there was a discussion as to, okay, it got cut down, it's gonna grow back up, is it gonna look like crap? So the school was looking at that, or the Board of Ed actually was looking at it and saying it's outside the boundaries of the actual project. And then we started looking across. When you come out of the first driveway for Johnson, not the bus loop one, but the other driveway, well, you actually come out of there and you look straight across, and there's a scrubby looking field that was cut down also and looks kind of crappy. So the Board of Ed has solicited, even though it's outside the scope here of the project, some landscaping ideas as far as what to do with that. So we only have one right now, I believe.
We're expecting at least a second, Nancy, from a different company.
Okay. So this is for both of those. This is
That's
for
for
both of
each
those
of those, all
areas.
three of those areas, yeah.
Right.
The area below the Rockwell football field going down to the roadway was cut down a year and a half, 2 years ago by Park and Rec. They left it a mess. They didn't, they
so-
just left everything there. They didn't clean anything up. You know, and listen, I believe that, you know, the educational park is a town's crown jewel and it should look great. But there's got to be some responsibilities from other agencies in the town also. And they just left that a mess. And now, would I like to see it get cleaned up? But maybe we need to talk to the, you know, the Board of Selectmen or somebody else about overtaking that one area.
So
This is crazy.
here's what we're looking at, okay? So we're looking at the areas around Rockwell and Johnson, which were kind of scrubby and crappy looking. And so a lot of that got cut down, whether it was cut down recently or cut down a year ago or cut down 2 years ago. All of that stuff is going to grow back and it's going to look kind of scrubby again. So here is a proposal, albeit quite expensive, to remedy that situation. What do we do? I know we had some ideas of ripping some stuff out, planting some other stuff. It looks like here they're talking pretty much about ripping everything out and seeding it, I guess. So I'm not sure how you would, unless you use the big thing that the town has where they, you know, it's got the big arm and it mows. I don't know what it's called. But if you seeded it and grass grew there, how would you cut it? How would you maintain it? That's my big question. Again, this is outside the project area. Do we want to take this? I mean, obviously we can't make any kind of decision tonight because we don't have anything else to compare it to. Terry, you had said in an email that, and you just said too, you're expecting another quote, but you also said that they were going to bring in
In that area 3, which is when you walk out of the door at Johnson by the Library Media Center and you look straight across.
Yeah.
That grade is too steep to then maintain. So that price is including 10 loads of fill. And so that's why I said, did we haul away all the fill already, or is there any more? With the thoughts of just lessening the grade. Look, I would appreciate a few members of the committee looking at these 3 areas and giving it some consideration and talking to us about suggestions. I'm not a landscape expert. We just we want to do something that's going to last and look good forever. Because actually, when you come into Johnson, especially when you come inside Johnson there, it is the area you're really looking at from the front of a good part of the school there. So I'm open to solutions.
I would,
Be happy
I would
to,
volunteer to be on that committee,
So would I.
you know, to look at it with you.
So,
I
Okay.
Roy and
agree.
John,
I think we should do something too. This
Absolutely.
looks a little more than I was thinking of, but I would like to look at it.
Yeah, and
100%,
remember, we're
definitely.
coming out of COVID, and I understand, that, you know, some of these medium-sized landscapers, even trying to get staffing
Yeah.
ramped up. I mean, I understand the prices seems very high. So,
Yep.
but I would like some kind of a plan that maybe we could move forward with.
okay, so Dino, or not Dino, John and Roy are gonna get together. You guys make a plan on your own to go take a look at it, and
And I'll meet you, just call my cell, I'll come up and meet you and walk you through the areas. But again, I am definitely not the landscaping expert, so I come as a layperson, but I'm happy to, you know, hear your thoughts, because you guys know a heck of a lot more than I do.
Okay, that sounds great.
Can
and
Public
and
Works-
if,
can Public Works do any of this work?
Well, I don't know. I guess what I'd like to hear from the committee is what you think would make the most sense to have done. And then we can work on your thoughts, Dave, as to maybe who could help us with this.
It might be a thought to have Bob Dibble take a look at it.
But it might be good to have all of us out there.
right, because if who's gonna maintain it, if Public Works is gonna maintain it, then it might be good to have some input from them as to what they're able to maintain. And,
And
you know,
I
if we're
li-
looking
yeah.
at, if we're looking at that proposal, which they're saying they're gonna haul in some topsoil, for 2 years, we've been trying to get somebody in town to take the topsoil, and now it's all gone. So I'm like, feeling like I should bash my head against the wall, trying to get rid of topsoil, and now we need some. Rich, what do you want? What do you got?
Eileen had just bought a new mower that can mow the back of that field behind the football and track area, can go up that steep slope. So I would also contact Eileen to see if she could mow that new slope.
Yep, should all look
Okay.
at it.
If you pick a time, I can arrange to have Bobby Dibble and Eileen Earl there also. We'd be happy to come, and, you know, it usually works well when all of us are working,
Yeah.
rowing in the same direction.
Yeah, Terry, I'm available pretty much anytime, just kind of,
Okay,
whatever you can, give me a day's warning. I'm usually around, so.
okay, great, excellent.
So then just give John enough time to know, like, I bet John's probably better either first thing in the morning or at the end of the day,
Yeah,
depending on where he's working, so.
The only thing is I'm next week I'm away on vacation, but I'll be here until Friday, until Thursday actually, or the week after. The first week in June.
So
Well,
there's
are
no-
either of you available tomorrow or Thursday or not?
I am.
What time of day?
I'm available tomorrow afternoon. I got to check my schedule. I think Thursday let me just look.
Could you guys all do this like
Yeah, we'll do that later.
separately?
Okay.
Yeah. That would be good. All right, so you guys are going to be looking at that, and you'll let us know, keep us posted, etc. So are we going to look, where are we? Oh, we're not at invoices yet. We're doing professional
Oh,
services requests.
yeah.
So, I'll find my thing here. So right before the last meeting, we got a letter from, letters actually from Perkins Eastman with info telling us that their extended services requests went through May because that was the date that Rizzo gave us for completion. So they've still got some left on that, but now we're looking into June, and Ken and Jim, this is why we need some kind of completion date, because we're like leaking money here. So we have one for each school for Rockwell and Johnson. Resent those to everyone for your review, because when we did get them, like I said before the last meeting, but it was kind of the day before the last meeting and didn't have a lot of time to review. So we've got one for each school. Anybody have any input on this?
Yeah. Which one was the 9,000 one? What was that, Rockwell?
So
I don't have it in front of me. What?
yeah, I've got them here. So for Rockwell School, basically the anticipated project completion was May 1st, and then now we're looking at services being required through July 1 to bring the project to completion, and they're requesting that an additional not to exceed amount of 9,000 be approved.
Yeah, but I'm gonna make a motion to approve it, and then we'll get some discussion going.
Okay, and I'll second it so we can discuss further. So questions, comments? Joe's still here, so he can answer for us.
I'm with you, Nancy. I mean, we got to know when the project's going to end. I'd like to see that from Rizzo, but I can understand we have to keep paying for Perkins and Eastman too. So
last week we asked a question, Joe. So you're saying that in this proposal that you're looking at completion, construction administration services through July 1.
Correct.
So in your initial amount would have included construction administration services through, in theory, December 1, but
Right.
you didn't know that that was the completion date at the time. How do I want to? So December 1 was the proposed completion date of construction. And beyond that, there would have been time for closeout and stuff like that, I'm assuming, or not?
That would have included closeout to December 1st.
So in this proposal that you're giving us now, you're including closeout that will be completed by July 1?
That would be the hope, yes.
Okay. So once construction is completed, typically, what kind of, so construction is completed, construction's all done. A CO is given, and then you're closed out, or? All right, so you're not closed out until we get a CO. Is that how we look at it?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
Then some of the closeout is also paperwork closeout.
So I think we asked that last week too, how much of the closeout of paperwork that has to deal with the state and et cetera involves Perkins Eastman? How much of that involves Eastman?
We have
Do we know?
this substantial completion form that we have to complete. I'm not sure if there's anything else beyond that.
I'll need some assistance in remaining PCOs and then uploading that to the state, but there's no review by you guys. I mean, depending on when the last application for payment is submitted by Rizzo, that requires the architects to review and sign off. And at this point, we're going to get a May requisition to approve in June. We're probably going to get a June requisition to approve in July. Then there's probably going to be a release of bonds, and we won't release the rest of the retainage until, I think it's probably optimistic to say it'll be a July requisition reviewed in August. Not a lot of time, but there's going to be some time spent on closing out that portion of the paperwork by the architect as well. And then, depending on what happens with the last round of punch listing, and I guess going beyond that, if there's additional scope that the committee decides to kind of to the project, there may be some ongoing work that maybe it gets associated with that, that additional scope.
Right, and these proposals, like the previous one, are hourly not to exceed. So this is assuming that we would stop at July 1st if we've exceeded the fee that are in the proposals. But as you've seen in the last proposal, we had money left over after May 1st that we're rolling into this proposal as well. So, I mean, obviously, we're not going to leave the job high and dry, and we've been with you guys all the way. So, at worst, we would just request to extend the date if there's money left over, and if not, then we would have to ask for additional fees if we do. So, but we will be with the project until they are 100% complete.
And I believe that there was also in our original agreement that, if we need your professional services in anything we're filing with the state at the end, that, because sometimes questions come up in getting all of that final grant documentation all filed with the state.
Right.
Right, and I'm assuming that would have been part of your original, knowing that we were working with the state, your original
Yes.
proposal.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I believe that is included. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so Dino, did you have something? You looked like
Nope,
you were going
nope.
to jump in. Okay. So we do have a motion on the floor. Do we have any other input, questions, comments? We ready to vote on this? Again for Rockwell. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Motion carries. So we have a similar, I didn't put this, well, actually I could find it to put it up, but I did, like I said, I sent it out so everybody could read it. Similar wording, but again, this is for Johnson and the amount is an additional not to exceed 16,000. Same discussion. Rockwell's further along. There's still more. I mean, I think the punch list at Rockwell is even further along. Johnson has more site work, but also site work ongoing, not just site work that needs to be updated, upgraded, repaired, etc. But there's some other outstanding items at Johnson. So I'll make a motion that we approve this extended services amount for Johnson in the amount of not to exceed $16,000.
Okay.
Dave Olson seconds. Any other questions on this?
Nope.
Because I think the same questions are, same thing with closeout, paperwork, going to the state, et cetera, et cetera. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And we're done with that one. So those have signatures. I'll have to get them signed. And as far as the other additional services requests, we're still mulling and still putting lots of numbers and figures together and trying to sort it all out. entitled mess, as someone said recently. So now we're off to invoices. So do we want to look at the releases first before we do all the rest of the invoices? Might be a good place to start.
Yeah, in whatever order you want, but yeah, we can
Okay.
introduction first.
Okay.
The current request from Rizzo is to, so currently we're holding 5% on each subcontractor retainage total on their total contract value. The request is to reduce those retainages down to 2.5%. So no one's released entirely. Most contractors reduced to 2.5%. Some contractors who still have significant either punch list work or real work, or there's some question about their performance and continuing. Rizzo is suggesting no reduction in their retainage, and you can see the list here. I put together just a quick chart that showed what we're talking about number-wise, in case anybody was interested. The current retainage amount was listed for each subcontractor. What we would be paying them is what this retainage reduction amount equals. So we would be authorizing the payment of an additional $684,000 plus. And then what would be remaining for each one of the contractors. And you can see that for the most part, their retainage is being cut in half, cut in half, cut in half. Some of these where we're saying 0 to be released today are still going to have their full retainage held. You know, that hopefully you all had an opportunity to review. There's a chart for Rockwell, there's a chart for Johnson. And you can see where some retainages are still significant. Actually, we will still be holding $155,000 of their money. And then there are, of course, some very small contractors like cubicle curtains, privacy curtains, where we're just going to hold $234 of their money. So if anyone has any questions about any specific contract.
Yeah, so for the Action Air, that's a pretty sizable number. What's the reasoning for that?
The reasoning to release or to still retain?
Still retain, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to guess, maybe I'm speaking for Ken, I think it was just simple math. Let's cut all the retainages in half, make it fair across the board, and that way nobody, you know, other than the ones that really are, you know, contractors that we're having some dispute with, no one can say, oh, somebody got more than anybody. That's, you know, that's how I kind of interpreted that. Ken?
Right.
And, you know, make sure everything is completed and turned in like it's supposed to. You know, there was talk about the air conditioning, but that was pretty much resolved last week in the Thursday meeting. So it was basically just doing a 2.5% across the board for the contractors that retainage released.
You know, I'm generally okay with that, but I'm not okay at all with the like priority one. And I know you're not talking about it, but we only have $3,000, you know, retainage on those. And you know, I don't know, is that under earth movers one also? Because I'm not in favor of moving on earth movers. I'm not in favor of moving on Ferguson's until we know that, you know, we've reviewed all their change orders and any discussion items. That's why I had raised this question before, Ken and Jim. Any of the items that, you know, the contractors feel are going to be beyond the contract work, I would like us to hold the retainage at this point. Anyone at all that's part of a discussion item, myself, I would not advocate moving it in half.
I think that makes sense, right? And if there's an ounce of punch list left for any of these people, I wouldn't release anything.
Absolutely, Jim. That's exactly what I have absolutely no problems on the people that, you know, your comfort level is high on per se. But, you know, a couple of the ones that I see, I'm concerned about that. Was it priority landscaping? And just as a side on that, was that separate or was that also, was that part of Earth Movers contract?
Separate bid package.
Separate, shoot.
Yeah, so Jim, what you're saying is, like, Geraldine put the chart together, just an FYI for us. And you have your list here that you had emailed to Geraldine as far as who you and you or Ken, I think it came from Ken, like you, QSR Young Developers, I agree with that, prior to landscaping, no release at all. So Geraldine has that figured it into her chart. But are there others on the chart that you're thinking you're going to try to do less on just because at this point in the project, even though they're not on your list here, you might want to say, let's hold a little bit more on
I
those
think we
people.
need to have that. Yes, I agree. I think we need to have that flexibility as long as it doesn't create an issue for the town. You know, Geraldine mentioned people know what was released, but you know, again, if there's an ounce of punch list, nothing motivates better than getting money released.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, and at the same time, there's probably some people like, you know, people who put up the toilet stall.
Yes, to be fair, yes.
Who are completely done and they've been done for a year or maybe more. So
there is no closeout, you know.
There's no closeout, there's no punch list, you know, you're good to go with them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I don't think we need to do any kind of like motion or anything with this. I think we, in having this discussion, unless people think otherwise, it's fine with me. And having this discussion and letting Rizzo know that, you know, we're kind of keeping an eye on this. We don't want to end up like Roy said, situation where, you know, like prior to landscaping, that is a small amount of retainage, but at the same time, it's the percentage of their contract. So can't really hold more on them. Although I have a feeling that if they've submitted a payment application to Rizzo, that it's not been paid or they've not been included in any application for payment Rizzo has given us because they're not as far along as Rizzo thinks they should be. So I think Rizzo's keeping an eye on that.
Right.
Jim and Ken?
Yes.
Yeah. So are there others that, you know, and I do see that, like Roy, you mentioned earth movers. I see that, you know, if in releasing half of earth movers, there's a lot, especially if we're looking at Johnson and Rockwell, that earth movers has completed a lot. You know, there's stuff that they completed a year ago. If they were doing the digging for like the foundations and stuff. So, you know, they've completed a large chunk. And so I'm not seeing the need to withhold more from earth movers, but
the only thing that I would request is before you even release that one, I'd really like you to take a look at the recommendations from Malone and McBroom, from Dave. Just make sure there's not items there that are part of grading problems per se to start with. And I'm only asking about the slope on Rockwell on the parking lot there, if there has to be regrading or anything. I don't think there is, but you know, again, I think we should see what the punch list items from, you know, from our walkthrough on Friday was.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'm assuming
Rich has a question.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's all landscaping, but I don't necessarily know. Okay.
Nancy,
so,
I have
okay, go ahead, Rich.
what does the contract say? A lot of times on a temporary CO or it's reduced to half, but you know, it generally spells it out in the contract when they're going to be paid retainage. Years ago, we used to hold retainage for a year.
Sure. Yeah.
On completion.
Yeah, the contract says that retainage release or reduction can be requested. And it's totally upon the approval of the owner, which would be this group. So this is the request we're entertaining, and it's totally up to you whether to approve any reduction or none, or individual reductions. So that, in this case, the contract's not tagged to a specific level of completion to reduce retainage.
So just a suggestion, with our next payment application, if Ken submits to Geraldine the punch list for that particular trade, including any closeout or warranty, that it's been completed, that should be the trigger that allows for the reduction of that retainage. And that'll be an item by item, but as long as Geraldine's got the flexibility to say, okay, yes or no, I think that's probably the best way to manage this.
I agree.
Right, so, and but
And this
also,
one- Yeah, I was gonna
go
say,
ahead, Geraldine.
we brought it today in anticipation of the next meeting would be an application for payment approval. So we wanted you to have a sense of what we're requesting prior to seeing it on somebody's invoice, right? So.
Right, so, and then we also, Joe Colada, with the walk that you did with Malone and McBroom, are they gonna issue like a field report, or is it just a punch list, or?
I not sure how they issue it. It's if they do a field report or if it's an actual punch list or if it's both.
Or a combination, okay.
Right. I know some engineers just issue field reports. They don't actually issue quote unquote punch lists.
Right, okay. So that may wanna be taken into consideration with just a few of like either or some other people involved with any of that, like Roy said. And then I think if we do take into consideration, with the next step. So Jim and Ken, when you get in releasing the retainage, does each individual contractor have to ask for it, or are you going to release it because you know that with the toilet partitions, they're totally done? Let's finish that up.
I can tell you I would make them ask for it, but I guess if I think a better way is if we can present everything when we present the payment that the items are closed out, then it makes sense to release the dollars.
Yeah.
Right. So you normally don't wait for them to ask for it. You would.
Oh, I normally wait for them to ask for it.
So
to be fair.
Yeah. Have any asked for it? I've seen a couple of emails.
But Ken, I'll let you speak to that. I believe Verdi and Higgins, the flooring company, are the two that I know of that have asked for it.
Yeah, there've been some others. Gold Hill Roofing asked for it about 4 months ago. And there's been some early ones that, they were done with their work, and so they want the retainage. Even Nyram, the demo contractor, wanted it a long time ago, but we have to sort out certified payrolls with everybody as well. So there's some of that closeout and from that we have to do before we would even get this far.
Okay. So we know that in the next application for payment that there may be some retainage reduction amounts listed that would obviously be checked by Carolyn and her team to make sure that, and if we are need, you'd let us know, but I think we can agree that we're good with, especially people that have been done, are done, don't have any punch list items, or their punch list items are minute and warrant a 2.5% reduction. So any other input on this?
Right.
Okay. All right, good. Geraldine, you need any other information from us or Jim? I think probably good with that.
We'll be probably pretty hard with them and then see what happens.
Yeah, good. It's your job.
Exactly.
So now we're on to invoices.
Fun. All right, let's see. We'll start with Perkins or some of the odd ones, or how would you like to?
Sure. I've got just a pile here and I'll pull out, because I like to mark them as I do them just because it helps me keep track. so I can give stuff to Kathy.
All right. I'm gonna,
Hey, sorry to interrupt, but I have to take off for a few minutes. I got a problem at work. I'll try and bounce back.
All right, so Dave, wait,
Yep.
all right, you're leaving?
I am, hopefully I'll be back in 10, 15 minutes.
Because we're gonna need you, because Dino has to jump off at 9.
All right.
So if you can come back, that would, okay.
Nope,
do-
I'll just put you guys on
if-
silent mode and I'll do what I gotta do.
Yeah, do what you gotta do. If we lose you and Dino, we're gonna have to stop. So,
Okay, nope, I will, all right, I'll make it happen.
yeah, thank you.
Bye-bye.
So start
Ready?
with,
Let's run through them. Okay. Perkins Eastman Johnson for extended
Okay.
stay.
hang on just a second. Let me get my correct colored pen and where I need to be. Okay. Get to the right one. So I'll make a motion that we approve the Perkins Eastman invoice number 68962.07.0-2 for Johnson School for Construction Administration Extended Services in the amount of $4,014.75.
Second,
Dave Wilson seconds. Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Done. Next one. Just keep throwing them up there.
Yep, Johnson Washer Dryer.
Johnson, yeah. Make a motion that we approve Perkins Eastman invoice number 68962.05.0-4. Washer dryer for Johnson in the amount of $320.
second,
Second from Dave, all in favor?
aye,
Opposed? Done. That's probably the end of the washer dryer one, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
We'll talk about that later when we get the actual bills for the service.
Okay, so Johnson site work, I make a motion that we approve Perkins Eastman invoice number 68962.04.0-5. Johnson site work in the amount of $718.75.
second,
Second from Dave Olson, all in favor?
aye,
Opposed? Done. And this is not the last invoice for that, right? There's a little bit more left.
5% left on that,
Yep.
which cover the visits that we just had this last week.
Yep, okay. All right, next one.
All right, Rockwell Extended CA.
Okay, for Rockwell, I'll make a motion we approve Perkins Eastman invoice number 68961.00.0-2. Construction Administration Extended Services, the amount of $1,510.50.
second,
Dave Olson seconds, all in favor?
aye,
Aye. Opposed? Done. Last one.
And the Rockwell Washer Dryer design work.
A motion that we approve invoice number 68961.05.0-4 for the Rockwell Washer Dryer in the amount of $320.
So moved.
second,
John Menti seconds. All in favor?
aye.
Aye. Opposed? Done. So what's next? Throw something at me.
STV?
Sure. Make a motion that we approve invoice number 9002-0847 for Johnson School from STV in the amount of $4,550 for their extended services.
Second,
Dave Olson seconds. All in favor?
aye,
Opposed? Done. And make a motion we approve STV invoice number 90020850 for Rockwell School Extended Services in the amount of $3,094.
Okay.
Somebody seconded it, whoever it was. Dave Olson. All in favor?
All right.
Aye. Opposed? Done. Next.
ESC for Rockwell, it's marked FF&E. This is for Rockwell AV work.
Okay, let's see which one we have. I make a motion, we approve invoice from ESC, invoice number 1187461. And this is for FF&E at Rockwell in the amount of $1,230.
Second.
Dave Olson seconds. All in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Done.
And Rockwell Security, unfortunately, I didn't rotate it before I uploaded it. So hopefully you can still read
Well,
it.
I've got it. So ESC invoice number 1187416 for Rockwell School for the security in the amount of $8,829.30.
Second.
Dave Olson seconds. All in favor?
All right.
Aye. Opposed? Done. And then Geraldine, I have a couple of ESC ones that maybe you didn't get them yet, or
Maybe they're, oh,
so the let me see.
yeah, what, can you just, what are the,
So we just did Rockwell
yeah,
FF&E and Rockwell Security. I have one that's dated May 14th. That is Johnson School FF&E. $1,966.47.
does that leave, is that to 100% or do they still have a balance?
Yeah. It's 100%.
So that's why, because at the time
Okay.
that we uploaded that, I didn't want to pay them 100%. But
Okay.
because they're not finishing that wireless survey until tomorrow. So I would hold that one and we'll present it at the next meeting if they in fact complete 100% of their work by then.
Okay, because I have one from January for Johnson School FF&E for $800 where they're showing no, and you told me to hold this one. So now it must be that we added some stuff in a change order and they're still working on that. Okay.
Yeah,
hold them.
I'll look into those for the next week to see if we're missing anything.
Okay. So what are we gonna do next?
So let's talk about the washer and dryer, the real washer and dryer work. So last week we presented the quote from Auto Plumbing, and this is in fact the invoice. So this is for both schools. We did not have them separated. This is not reimbursable work, and the town will be able to separate, we'll allocate this invoice to the two accounts. So this is for both schools, $5,460.
Okay, so this is, and it's okay that we do this not divided.
Yep.
Okay. So I'll make a motion that we approve the invoice from Auto Plumbing, invoice number 125993 for the installation and hookup of the plumbing and the hookups actually of the washer and the washer, I would assume. For both Rockwell and Johnson School in the amount of $5,460.
Second.
Dave Olson seconds. Any discussion, questions, et cetera on this? Like an eighth of the amount that we were supposed to spend?
Yeah.
Yeah. And this will finish the washer and dryer debacle?
Well, the next invoice that we'll look at is the electrical portion, then
Okay.
and this work is all done. So hookups are in, the work is done. I think the washers and the dryers were delivered and installed. There was a problem with, I think, one washer, but there, you know, Bob's staff will be dealing with that. Yeah, the work is completed.
Beautiful.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Done. All right.
And the, then the electrical work, both schools, again.
Which Lucido did separate, I think. No? Well,
No.
so I have two Lucido.
With different invoice numbers?
Oh, this is, all right, so, yeah, and it's a different invoice, so I'll, we'll talk about that in
Yeah,
a,
no, there is another Lucido invoice we're gonna deal with. It's different work. This is for the,
that's something different, okay.
no.
Got it, yeah, I see it says security plans, okay.
Yeah.
So these are both schools, and it's, Lucido invoice number 109511 for the electrical installation and connections for the washer and the dryer in the amount of $2,770.68.
Okay.
Dave seconds, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Done.
Now, just for fun, if you add the plumbing and the electrical and you divide it by 2, it means that we spent $4,115 at each school to add the washer and dryer. And if you will recall, the change order proposed for Rockwell was $24,161, and the change order for Johnson was an additional $21,977. So I wish Bob were on the call because we could, you know, have a big hurrah that he got his vendors to do it at, yes, essentially 1/8 of the cost. So.
Wow.
So similarly, we asked Bob to go back to Lucido and to United Alarm to install the wireless keypad control for the security system at Rockwell. You might recall the actual control system is at the front door where we really needed it. He really needed it at the receiving entrance, the loading dock. And the solution there, after seeing a change order from Ferguson, was to install a wireless control pad here. So we needed some electrical work from Lucido because it needed power, obviously, to receive. And that is this invoice for $406.50.
So I make a motion to approve that.
Second.
So this is the Lucido one. We'll do the
Yeah, and then we'll do the.
United Alarm one separately.
Yep.
So we got a second, and anybody have any other questions? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Done.
And then to actually provide and install the wireless keypad, United Alarm invoiced for $1,090.47.
Motion to approve it.
This, yeah, so Moroyd made the motion to approve. Dave John or Dave seconded it. So I'm just looking because I think I have another one, but I'll just make sure. So this one, I want to make sure 393790. Okay, got it. All right, so all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Done.
And again, for the original PCO for this work from Ferguson was over $4,300, and the total of these two invoices is about $1,500. So again, thanks to Bob for arranging to have this done with his own vendors. The last invoice is a furniture item. So this is for Inselco. This invoice has been, sitting in my inbox since January. It is for an additional conference table that was ordered for the assistant principal's office at Johnson. We could, for 5 months, we couldn't find it. The vendor kept saying it was delivered. He had a signed, shipping receipt. And finally, they found it in one of the music rooms. So I figured at this point we should pay for it.
So they found it. Okay, good.
They did. They found the table finally, and the invoice number is 9227, and here's the amount.
So I'll make a motion that we approve Enselco invoice number 9227 for Johnson School in the amount of $703.56.
Correct.
Whoever seconded it, John Menti seconded it, somebody seconded it. Aye.
Aye.
Oh, anybody opposed? Done. So I also have, did you send an invoice or did I get an invoice? Did we already approve the invoice for Fairfield County Landscaping?
Yes, we did that last meeting. I'm fairly certain.
Okay, because I have one sitting here that I guess I picked up and it's got writing on it that's recent. So maybe I had a copy of the original.
I don't even think it was last meeting. I think it, let me,
I thought we approved the amount they said it was going to cost, but
no, this,
I think it was 2 meetings ago.
is this it?
So no, because the one I have is stamped received May 10th. So maybe when we approved it, then they, finance got to sending and then they didn't get it until they sent out another one. But I can check with Bob
Is
next
it this?
week.
Yeah, is it this invoice number though? I mean,
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
oh, okay.
So it's probably like, it says it's handwritten Johnson School on it, but if I hold it up to my camera, you won't see it, but it's got a received date stamped, that's received accounts payable, but the date is May 10th, and then it's got somebody's initials, and it's dated May 11th. So I'm assuming that when we approved this, and then it was sent to finance to get done, and the check went out, they had received it, so they sent another invoice. Right. And then we also have the E+ ones that you're still working with them on because stuff's not complete.
Because they're not complete, correct?
Okay, so that's all of them that we're doing tonight.
Yes, that's it.
Right. So do we have any other school stuff that we need to deal with, talk about, etc.? The big thing that that sticks in my mind right now after the sick walk on Friday, and a couple of things that came up because it came up before that, the conduit for the scoreboard, and are we getting that done in a timely fashion so that we can deal with going through the road if we need to?
So my assumption, Joe, is that you were, based on what Joe Costa set out on last Friday, that you're providing some information to Rizzo on that sleeve and the conduit?
Yes, I have the sketch from DTC for that, and I'm going to be issuing it tomorrow.
Good, okay. So they should have time to make the arrangements for prior to the road paving.
Yeah, there was also the other request for the irrigation future work.
Right.
That sketch is coming from Malone and Broom, and I've been bugging them about that, so.
Okay. Because I know the supposition was that the conduit for the scoreboard was still there under the road somewhere. And the only thing that we'd have to dig up the road for would be the sleeve for the water. But we still don't know whether that electrical conduit's there and or usable. And,
Right.
and if it's still there, great, we can pull a wire through it, but we got to find both ends of it. So somebody's got to be doing that. So you're issuing that, and that goes to Rizzo, and they'll be taking care of it.
Correct.
Okay, good. Any other questions for anybody? Rich?
It'd be a good idea just to put an extra sleeve across the road for future use anyway. It's a couple pieces of conduit underneath the driveway, saves from cutting up the driveway again.
Yeah. So could we do that?
For a couple $100 for conduit, it's well worth it.
I guess while you've got a trench open, you just have to know where to locate both ends of it. Would it be put in and then pop up somewhere with a cap on it, or how would you do that?
You could do that or put it on the drawings. Put it on the site plan where it is.
Right. So
I
can
think
we do
typically
that?
they mark it in the field too.
Yeah, I know the one that they found, they left a stake there, which was a good thing. So we know how to find that end of it. But where it connects to the rest that runs down to that box, we have to find that too. So, okay. Anything else? Dino had to jump off, so, but we still have a quorum, so we're good. Are we good with school stuff? Are you planning another OAC meeting sometime or next week, or are you gonna wait a couple weeks or?
We didn't set a date, so we do need to have a follow-up meeting, or I can just follow up individually, but
Okay,
there will be future meetings of some kind.
right, but not as frequently because we probably don't need them.
Right.
Okay, any other questions for Ken or Jim or Geraldine or Joe?
Nope.
Okay, good.
Not everyone.
Good night. Thank you. Thank you. Thank
All
you.
Night.
Roy, David, and John, and me, we have to stay for a little bit. Dave Olson, you could stay too if you want to, even though you're not.
No, thank you.
Okay, but you're gonna have to in the future, theoretically, right?
Right.
Good night.
Why do I feel like I'm in detention?
Right.
Detention. It's, we just have a couple of things. So as I said last time, we did have letter of resignation from Gil Letelier.
Yep.
And the interesting thing is Dave Olson has offered to fill that position. So
Good.
even though he's on just the school project, he will hopefully, if confirmed by the Board of Selectmen, join us as the 7-member Public Site and Building Commission. So
Great.
That's terrific.
That's good stuff.
yeah, yeah. So just on the police station, that I sent out an email, and I did report that at the last meeting that they were making progress, and they've completed the masonry parts that have to be done, and then they were in the process of procuring the coating stuff. So then they've gotten the back section that they wanted to coat, like 10 feet wide and then all the way to the top. That's coated with the material. And then they were going to call for a water test to be done yesterday. That was their plan. And then they did a little, so we were trying to coordinate that so that if any members here wanted to attend, but not a quorum, and the Board of Selectmen had requested to attend. So we're trying to come up with, putting together a Board of Selectmen agenda, because, Matt's out of town, but Rich and Paul were going to come. And then I got an email from down saying that they wanted to wait 7 days to let the coating cure. Then I got another email, I think it might have been Saturday morning, from Jeff Anderson saying that they were, I guess it was the painter checking with Benjamin Moore. This is the product that was specified, a Benjamin Moore product, that we should wait 21 days for the cure to happen before the water test happens. And I'm thinking, what do they think? We're going to take a fire hose and hit the thing with, 1,000 PSI or something? But they're saying, Benjamin Moore says you should wait 21 days. And I said, so does that mean we have to keep the building dry for 21 days? No rain get on it? Any of that? Jeff said no, but it's the 21 days. So I put that forward to the Board of Selectmen and the attorneys, because that they've all inserted themselves into this. We've had these specialty reports done from several different people. all of the people say, code it, do a water test. So the input that I received back from both the attorneys and first selectman Knickerbocker was to wait to 21 days and then do the water test. Jeff Anderson of Downs wants to coat the whole building and then do the water test after 21 days. Steve Pugner, Captain Pugner, Chief Pugner wants to get everything going again immediately, just do it. So I said we would discuss it at the meeting tonight and get some input and then make a decision. So in some ways it is up to us. We're still supervising the project. I see pros and cons to waiting. Yet the longer we wait, because what they did was, and I understand this, in using their step-by-step proposal that they gave us way long ago, and then they restated it after attorneys were involved, and it was kind of back and forth between the town's attorney and the town's hired attorney, Attorney Robinson, and Downs attorney, and then Downs stating step by step, the water test is in there before the rest of the building gets coated. So it's like making sure it works before we go on the rest of the stuff, because it's not something, as I explained last time, not something that we can go and buy off the shelf at Tom's Paint. They have to order it through Benjamin Moore. So they've only really ordered enough to do that test section. So that might take another 3 to 5 days to order the rest to do the rest of the building. Jeff Anderson is confident that coating the rest of the building will suffice, and we do a test another time. I want to test it first. I want to test it first.
Yeah,
Before we
can we get the spec sheet sent to us on this? Because
yeah, well,
21 days.
They sent it.
Concrete cures in 28 days to the max, right?
Right. And they did send us a spec sheet way back, so I can find that. And Jeff did send a section of the spreadsheet that basically says, or a section of the spec sheet saying that you shouldn't coat it under X degrees, over 100 degrees.
Right.
Don't let it get wet within 24 hours, which is basic for paint to begin with.
Yeah.
But I think that the situation is that it's a primer coat and 2 finish coats. So it's like you put the primer on, you're not allowed to put the finish coat on till however many hours they say, or sometimes it's 24 hours. Then you put a finish coat on, and then you got to wait X number of hours before you second finish coat on. Then it's all got to cure. So I can find that, send it out. My feeling is to a little longer, at least, before we do any kind of test. And the test is not going to be, test is going to simulate rain, and the test is going to be similar to what Ryan Patrick did 2 years ago, stood there with a garden hose for 20 minutes and the water was flowing through the inside with just a garden hose. It wasn't any kind of pressure.
All right.
That's the same thing that's going to be done. So I kind of want to do a test first before coating the building, coating the rest of the building.
I agree.
21 days, the 21 days is a little excessive. I'm thinking maybe we could compromise and say 10 days or something.
What's the manufacturer's recommendation say?
I think that's
saying.
I think it came from Benjamin Moore saying 21 days.
Then you should wait 21 days.
That I agree with you, John.
Because if you do it under that 21-day period and it fails, they're going to say you didn't follow our recommendations.
Exactly. And then it's
Right.
back to us again.
Right.
Which is what
Jeff Anderson too many times and gotten screwed.
right, and which is what I got. Yes, that's what I got from both the lawyers. That
Yep.
if Benjamin Moore is saying 21 days, we wait to 21 days.
21 days.
Sounds excessive, but at the same time, 21 days puts us at, I think, June 9th.
Yeah, this
And
isn't
that
that
doesn't-
far.
It's not that far. And
Yeah, it's not that warm out then. So
right, so that's the thing I was thinking about too. It's not pushing us into July where
Right.
we have both heat and humidity contend with. Yes, it was hot over the weekend, but it's cooled down a little bit, and I don't think it's going to be consistently hot and humid enough to cause a problem. So,
You're only talking mid-June, so I don't think it's a
Yeah,
problem.
yeah.
All right, so I'm agreeing with you guys, but my question is, we do this, we say, all right, we're gonna wait, and then we have this driving, not a nor'easter, but a driving rainstorm that does something and compromises the coating. Where do we stand from there?
see, I don't think it would compromise the coating. I think it's interesting. I don't know where, and I asked Jeff Anderson specifically in an email,
Yeah,
when he said Benjamin Moore is now saying we have to wait 21 days. I said, does that mean, like I just said that, do we have to cover
Yeah.
the building and not let it get wet for 21 days? And he said, no, because, showed that portion of the spec sheet that said, it can't get wet within 24 hours. Don't apply the coating if you know rain is coming within 24 hours. I kind of think we're going to get a test if we have a driving rain at some point.
well,
I think-
so that's my point. It's like, I know it's like rain, showers, whatever. As long as it's not a driving rain, I just want to make sure that we're not going to get, oh, well, you had this big storm and it blew it, it wrecked it all. So we have to start from scratch. That's all.
Right, but if the specs say, don't coat if rain is inspected within 24 hours, to me, that doesn't mean cover the building with a tarp until 21 days are done.
Okay, I'm with you.
So I will let them know. I haven't been over to see it, partly because it's behind the building and I'd have to get permission to walk around the impound lot and get to the back of the building or crawl over the top, which I might get shot for doing that. That's kind of where we are. And once the building is coated, then they finish up the caulking and some flashing and some other things. So I will let them know it's our feeling along with the attorneys and the board of selectmen, because even though they didn't meet and make this decision, I've gotten some input that we wait to 21 days, which again, I mean, we're already a week into it. They actually, well, not quite a week, because I think they started on Wednesday and finished on Thursday, something like that.
Okay.
And that's kind of all I have. Oh, and then Jeff Anderson did state in one of his emails saying, and you have to understand, or you have to agree, or whatever, that, which is part of the step-by-step sort of what they gave us, and I think I sent it to everyone, that the interior of the building needs to be completed and the HVAC system, so not just heating, cooling, but ventilation and maintaining a constant temperature needs to be completed as soon as possible. So I agree with that, yet how many of us have built, whether it's a small house or a huge building, where you dry the outside in and you don't finish the inside immediately? You get the outside dried, you start installing the HVAC, the plumbing, the electric. It might take a month, it might take 3 months. So their contention that not conditioning the inside immediately is going to cause problems, I think is kind of a little, that's what a couple of experts have said, but the plan is to move forward with completing the interior as soon as possible. But once the exterior is finished, we want to make sure it's dry on the inside before we start installing stuff.
But they're not putting sheetrock in there, right?
What's that?
There's
If
limited.
it looks like it's going to get into the fall and winter, we should switch the heating system to a vent,
An outside air, yeah. I don't think it's getting sheetrocked on the inside, Dave. I think it's going to be part of at least the main firing range section. There's sort of the beginning section that's kind of like a ready area that has some finish to it.
Right. So the only thing that's going to hold moisture is the block wall, which will dry out with the heating and air conditioning. So that's kind of my point.
Right.
There's nothing to retain the moisture.
Right, because there's an outside air vent that has to happen just for the conditioning, but also extra venting for the actual range itself with firing lead bullets. And there's a whole, there's this whole back and forth we've had with the health department on what's acceptable as far as the air exchange with that. So Rich. Rich, so you're muted still.
Is the building part or the public works gonna take that project over, or are you gonna see it through?
For the firing, the interior of the firing range?
The interior?
I don't know. It'll be whatever is, if it's given to us by the Board of Selectmen, we'll do it.
Okay.
It was an
Well,
order to give the public hearing.
what I was getting at is that heat and air conditioning and ventilation system is it already designed, or do they need to look at it again? I mean, that could be being worked in conjunction with the outside being finished.
Right. So the interior was not.
Plus, you gotta get the money. You don't have the money yet.
Right, so it wasn't completely designed by Chikunski Humes. I think there was like schematics done for it, but there was a
Yeah, the shooting, the range people itself.
there was a company called Action Target, or I can't remember. Lieutenant Sergeant, then Lieutenant now. I think Bryce was, and then the other one. Who was the other one? Libertini. They were both working on it. Libertini did a lot more work on it to come up with an actual design for the inside, which wasn't just the baffles and the targets and all that. It was what needed to be done for. That's why, right? That's why we have the holes on the backside as they are, because that was part of the HVAC system, and then the hole where the forklift is supposed to come through and put the target stuff in place. So yes, that needs to be revisited, but I think we need to have somebody to do it. So we're going to have money to pay the person to make the design, so it can then go out to bid and have company Action Target, I'm pretty sure was the name of it, would do all of that. They would do the design and the installation, but we'd have to come up
the air
with
handler also of the air.
Yes. Yeah.
of everything.
Okay.
Hey, Richie, it was much cheaper to let them handle the target people doing the whole thing. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll bring it up at the Board of Selectmen's meeting that
Yeah,
we need to start
they
it on.
seem to do it.
At least
They seem
the
to do it
design,
routinely.
get that equipment ordered for it.
Yeah.
Right.
When we were
Because
letting Jakumsky and Humes do it, they were just absolutely going overboard on the design of the HVAC.
Yeah, well,
I
that,
mean,
and then the other issue was with Laura and the lead filtering stuff.
But they had checked it. They had gone through it. It's a federally approved system. Apparently FBI and everyone else was using this.
Yeah.
Yes,
Well.
but we did still have a little kind of pushback from Laura, because she was, I don't know where she came up with some
She got her information
standards
from the
that
naval
came
stuff.
from the Navy. You know, it was
Yeah.
like the Navy does this,
I mean,
because she doesn't know enough about it to,
we can start working on those situations to get them settled rather
Yes.
sooner than later.
Yeah.
Right, okay, yep, okay. All right,
Thank you.
so that's about it on the police station. So I will let the Downs know that we're waiting the 21 days. And the municipal center renovation, I don't have anything else. John Menti, which I mentioned before, had the idea of doing a design build rather than like using a construction manager. So I don't know if you have any other info on that, John?
No, I just threw it out there. It might be, we do have a lot of information already developed, and you could, Kathy, who's your friend? If we could, you could maybe get a hold of a couple of the design build and give them information we have and have them come up with a price, what they think.
Yeah, but we already have a design. So
Right. I mean, a lot of the work is done, but
Yeah.
design build, they're gonna go soup to nuts and anything.
Right.
If they miss it, they're responsible for it. If we want to
Right.
add more, then we're responsible.
They might see some areas where we can save some money.
Right.
So,
Is this for the money do we need to get that done first before we go for the grants? Matt wanted a number to put forth so we can apply for some grants.
Right, and the number that we had kind of been using was 650, but that did not include, which I think we had a discussion on a long time ago. And I have to go back and look through my notes. That was kind of like a guesstimate at a construction price, but we also need to have an architect on board to kind of do the construction administration. So you kind of need the architect to be there, and you got to pay them money. So we got to come up, I think Peter Eckert gave us a kind of a ballpark figure of what it might cost us to have him do it if it was a project that lasted 3 or 4 months or so. Then if there's a question on the plans, or do you really mean this, or is this pipe really supposed to go here? You have to have somebody on board to do that part. So I see where John's coming from and do a design build, but do we, the town, own the plans that Peter Eckert did, or does he still own them?
We paid for them.
And I know we paid for them, but we also paid for the schematics of them.
That's a good question to ask them.
Yeah, because we also paid for the schematics of the police station, and we're told that they were proprietary to Jakunski Humes. And
Yeah.
so,
well, what if you contacted Peter and asked him to give you a cost estimate for the administration, and ask him to do a cost analysis in today's dollars of the project, and that would be the number that we can go for the grant.
so I could do that, although I think we asked him to do that cost estimate for the job before and didn't get very far with that. And I'm not sure as to, and we would probably have to pay him for his time. I think we still owe him money from stuff we asked him to do 1.5 years ago.
Well, find out what he wants, and I'll get it out of building maintenance or something.
Yeah, I thought we had paid.
We need to move forward on it. We're just, it's been years.
Yes, I agree. We asked him to write us an RFP, which we haven't paid him for, but he did. And when we gave it to Marty had a whole bunch of, we can't say that, you have to say this, whatever. And then we didn't go any further because we had COVID. So, and we were focused more on the school project. We have too many things going on right now. But I could check in with Peter and
reactivate it.
Yep.
Thank you.
I agree with you, Nancy. Everything kind of came up at once, Richie, at that point, and then the COVID hit. So,
and it was before COVID that we just were starting to drown with trying to get the police station done, and something school took off and having meetings till midnight, and so
there was a lot of things going on at that point.
Yep.
But maybe Peter will be starting to slow down a little bit now. Although I know they're all busy, but it's worthwhile.
I know everybody. Yep. So anything else anyone has? Are we done?
Motion to adjourn?
Say good night.
John made a motion to adjourn. I second it.
Good night.
All in favor? Hey.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Dave
Thanks.
Horvath, thank you for sticking in there. I'm sorry. I know when work kind of comes up, it's crazy, but
It is what it is. But I do love you guys.
and